gentlemen, and non-binaries. Welcome to a brand new series here on the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Barbara, and come to think of it, this isn't exactly a brand new series. I mean, I've done kind of tutorial character breakdown series before, and I'm using an old name, but I don't think I've ever finished it for this one. Mortal Kombat X turned 8 years old this month. Or is going to, rather, because I think I'm going to upload this before my 8th anniversary special, which is kind of nuts. But we should probably talk a little bit about what the series is. It's an overview of the characters for the game, for anybody who might be interested in picking it back up, or haven't played it in a while, or you just want to hear me talk about the crazy idiosyncrasies of this game for 45 minutes to an hour. I'm not fussed either way. So, let's jump in, and we'll be doing this in training mode. And who better to start us off than Scorpion, the fucking mascot of this series. Let's do Hanzo, though, because, I mean, we like that. And we're going to have him fight his best friend, Sub-Zero. Which I'm sure he won't mind. We're going to go over some very basic terminology first, before we get too crazy, so this might be a longer episode than most, but this is just to kind of get the basic stuff out of the way of when I'm saying certain things. So for instance, when I talk about a string, I'm actually going to turn the music off for this one, just so that I can focus. Can I not do that? I'd have to do that from the main menu. Hold on. I'm just gonna very quickly do this, and then we'll get started. Ugh.
Scorpion. Sub-Zero.
There we go. Sorry, I also realized I should have probably started on a different thing. We'll talk about that in a little bit, actually. But for now, let's just go over some basic terminology for this game. When I say a button, I mean a move. So, I mean a single button press. So something like this, this, this. You get the idea. When I say it's a good button, it's like a really good poke. A poke is a quick, usually crouching attack that is kind of a get-off-me tool to take your turn back and enforce pressure. A string is any combination of buttons that leads to, well, a combo string. So, for instance, that is a string. And a good string usually has a few key pieces of utility. For instance, raw damage is always a big plus. Certain strings do more damage than others. One other thing you have to consider is special cancelability. This is the ability to chain a string into a special move. So this string allows you to chain it to teleport, but it's a little trickier to get a combo. Whereas this string does a little extra damage, but it knocks them really far away, and you can't special combo the last hit. But you can special combo the second. Which for certain strings is a good thing, but we'll talk about that later. There are 4 general types of hits in Mortal Kombat X. There are high attacks, which are generally fast and hit any standing opponent, and most opponents in the air. But if they're crouching, a high attack will miss. Mid-attacks don't have that problem. They're generally slower. Does Scorpion not have any? Okay, so mids are generally slower. There we go. But because they hit mid, they will hit the opponent even if they are crouch blocking. The bread and butter for many an offensive tool is a strong mid. So that second hit of that string is a really fast mid that comes off of a high, so that you can catch people off guard. Then there are lows. Exactly what they sound like. These attacks hit low. You're almost never going to see a low attack anti-air because, that's how low attacks work. But if an opponent is overly stand blocking, then you hit him low. You'll notice that crouching beats these three options, at least in some form. You could straight up crouch under high attacks, and you can block them all if you crouch block. So how do you prevent somebody from just doing this all day? By the way, this is called turtling, when you crouch down and block. You throw in one of these, an overhead. Any strike that comes downwards and breaks a crouching block is an overhead. You have to stand block these. They're generally unsafe, but they're a really good way to get combos going. Throws are, throws. They're unblockable, but you can throw tech them, which basically just means when somebody tries to throw you, they'll escape and just get out of the throw. If they fail a throw escape, they eat a full throw, which is a pretty good way to kind of get a combo going, or a very good way to end a combo. So it's just a very basic, flashy way to get a combo. Just remember that that if an opponent throw attacks you, you're reset back to what is called neutral, when you're not really doing anything and many things can happen and you're trying to land a hit. I'm just going to see if there's anything else I really need to talk about that isn't self-explanatory. Oh, special moves. I should probably talk about these real quick. They're exactly what you would expect. If you've ever played a fighting game before, you know what a special move is. It's a move that has some sort of property. So, for instance, fast traveling low that does pretty good damage. Scorpion doesn't have a low that does more damage than this. This is actually his highest damaging low, especially when you meter burn it, which is you spending a bar of your super meter to get extra property. In this case, armor and extra damage. For teleport, it's different. It's just a mid, or it launches, allowing you to get a combo going if you know what you're doing. Other options are just extra damage, like with the spear. And you kind of have to weigh the pros and the cons. Using 2 bars of meter will let you use a combo breaker to get out of a combo. So I'm going to do a long combo and see if he breaks out of it at random. There we go. He broke the combo, which means he doesn't take that much damage. He tried to break twice there because it costs bars of stamina to do so too. So long combos you could get broken out of, and it's kind of an awkward situation, especially if the opponent has a life lead. But notice that it costs 2 bars of meter to do this, and all of your stamina, which kind of enforces a neutral situation. Then you have the X-ray attack. Your strongest basic attack is your super move in this game. Click 2 triggers when you have full bar, and go buck wild with this crazy auto combo that does really nice damage. However, once you kind of start graduating from just messing around for fun to wanting to get good at the game, or at the very least, learn what the game has on offer, X-rays are not something you're going to see very often because they cost all 3 bars of meter. And it costs 2 bars to escape from a combo, which in Mortal Kombat X can deal huge amounts of damage. I mean, for crying out loud, if I were to just... like, I messed that up and that was still 1/3 of your life. Or I could use a super move and get the same amount of damage, give or take. So, all of the basics out of the way and the glossaries and stuff, I'm sure I missed some stuff, and I'll bring it up as time comes on. Let's talk about Scorpion and what he brings to the table universally. What he brings to the table is some really solid buttons. I'm going to tag them. I'm going to tag most of the notable ones to kind of put a big frame of mind. Should probably talk about this just because it's universal. Excuse me. That's a single hit. That is a good low. I just need to remember I can only tag 6 at a time. Okay, so low poke. Literally called a low poke. This is one of the fastest buttons in the game. 6 frames, which is 1/10 of a second, basically, is very fast. If your opponent's not ready for this, well, Scorpion not only gets his turn back, well, he could go for a random throw, or whatever. He's got options, is what I'm saying, off of this low poke. Also, one thing I should note, despite appearances, pokes are not actually special cancelable. You can actually block that whole thing. If he lands a poke and then goes for that, just block. You'll be fine. As soon as you get hit, hold down block if you're on the defense, unless you think you can take your turn back. Then we have Flame Fist. This is that mid I was talking about before. It launches, as you can see, it throws the opponent in the air, and there's enough time for Scorpion to get a combo. So, I don't know how I'm going to just get off that, but you get the idea. There's a combo there that you can do. You can chain it, I believe you can chain it up to twice in the corner. Or is it 3 times? Oh, how many times can I do that? So you can do that 4 times for a combo. 1, 2, 3, 4, grab. Can help. It's very tricky, of course, and it's not very practical, but, I mean, it looks cool. Here, let's do 3. Not very much damage, but it could be worse. Crushing blow, big uppercut, big overhead with huge range. Well, not huge range, I should say. I mean, this probably has more range, this overhead, but it's quick. That's the key. And because he's technically airborne, any attempts to counter him with a quick strike will put him airborne and then knock him down, giving him access to wake-up attacks and such. So while it's not optimal, there's options here. The crushing blow is very much a versatile attack. Good way to end a combo, too, if you just want a free knockdown, too. You just do this, and then backdash to catch them waking up, that sort of thing. Uppercuts, these are universal, and they all do one big thing. Huge damage on hits, but they're highs. So this is one of those things that if you expect an opponent to come in and jump, slug them. Sometimes you can actually combo off of an uppercut, exploiting a specific reaction that is meant to keep the opponent allow the opponent a chance to get out of the corner. But as you can see, sometimes you can just get whatever combos you want off of it if you're willing to look into it. Hop kick, really fast mid with pretty good range. You can start the round with this mid in order to land some pretty solid damage outright. And if you're confident this is going to hit first thing, you can see where the potential comes in for a big combo. There we go. Almost 30% at the start of the round with just one mid. One fairly fast mid, too. It's 12 frames. The Shin Strike is slightly slower and has slightly less range, but hits low. This goes into a string that can knock down, which will be important later. Other notable... Oh, this is also universal, so I'll talk about this, I'll talk about this, and then we'll talk about the jump punches. So, sweeps, everybody has these. Fairly quick lows to trip the opponent and knock them down. Some of them have special properties. Scorpion even has one that's special. But let's talk about Flame Heal. Big overhead with long range. It's kind of the mid-ground between this mid and this overhead. Because this overhead does more damage but knocks down. This is faster and can be special canceled. But this overhead is special cancelable and does more damage. The trouble is, in a launch, you get that reaction, and it's not very great for combos. Unless you know what's going to happen, which is extremely unlikely. Like, if you accidentally catch somebody with an anti-air with this, and you somehow combo into this, I will be impressed. You usually use it to catch unsuspecting opponents on the floor. Jumping attacks are nothing to write home about. You have your basic jump punches, because these things are used to start your combos. Because they leave the opponent stunned. You can start certain combos off of jump kicks too. Just keep in mind that they launch. But you don't really have a lot of time unless you have a special castle or are right in the corner with a really fast button to pick it up. That's jumping in or jumping back. By the way, don't get overly cocky with the jumps. Yes, you could jump to get an easy 2 or 3% extra damage on your combo. But if you're jumping a lot, this is a habit that I have trouble breaking myself, so trust me when I say this. If you're jumping a lot and the opponent is hitting you out of it, keep your feet on the ground. This can be a free real estate for some opponents, for some characters. Free real estate for big combos. But if you want to catch an opponent off guard, you can do neutral jump attacks, which is just means jumping straight up. Note the kicks. They're the same kick, but notice how they knock down. But notice how on the way down, it's an overhead, but on the way up, it's a mid. That's true of all neutral jump attacks, by the way. This is to help ensure that you don't have a ludicrously fast overhead option. So, like, instead of so fast that it's practically instant, like that, you have this, or this. Overheads you can actually react to. And if you do a neutral jump punch, you get a launch. As you can see. And you kind of get the basic idea from there. Let's talk about some combos. Combo string-wise, Scorpion doesn't actually have that many, but that's really good because being kind of a beginner-friendly character, you kind of want easy strings to remember. Damnation comes off of a 9-frame high, so not the fastest high around, but it allows Scorpion to potentially pick up quick combos. To get some good damage going. Gravedigger is similar, but it knocks down. However, it also launches. And this is one of the easiest ways to get spear in the neutral. Just do one of these, throw out the spear, end it with whatever you want. Endgame is this string I told you about earlier. This big flaming knockdown. You'll usually use this, the 2-part of this string, Brimstone. Brimstone? No, Grievance, to continue combos because it's 2 hits of 3%. This is 2 hits of 2 and 3, and this is also 3. So you kind of have options here if you prefer 2-1, which is Eternal Flame, or if you want Grievance. Oh, I should probably mention real quick, numerations. Because Mortal Kombat X launches on multiple systems and not everybody has the same controller layout, if I were to just say, oh, press triangle, square, circle in order to perform Eternal Vengeance and you're on Xbox, some of you might get confused. Some of you might understand, but some of you might get confused. A good way that pleases everybody is just using number notations. If the numbers are agreed upon by a single button, you're good to go. So I'll tell you what they are now. 1 is square, or X. Triangle, or Y, is 2. X, or A, is 3. And B, or circle, is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I say forward 4, I mean the axe kick. If I say back 3, I mean the little shin kick. If I say back 1, 2, 1, that is endgame. There's a couple of different ways to try and memorize it, but most people online use these numerations. So whatever way you use, it's best to try and translate it into notations, at least if you're reading them online, reading combos online so you can understand. The final string Scorpion has, by the way, is Catastrophe. This is that string I was telling you about before, which ends in a big knockdown, because it ends in 4-2. Now, you might think maybe you could special cancel off this. You actually can't. For some reason, Catastrophe's smaller version, Judgment Day, does not let you combo off of it. Excuse me. It's also unsafe, which is a little bit weird. Can I even, like, pause the string partway through? Let's see. Okay, so I can go for it, so that's something to consider at least. Okay, now let's talk specials. Universally, Scorpion has the Teleport, the Spear, and Takedown. These are the only universal special moves that he has. And we'll talk about the variation gimmick in a little bit once we start talking about the variation proper. Teleport is a teleport. Very quick, covers the entire screen, hits them backwards for big damage. Great way to stop somebody who's trying to throw a projectile at you. Meter burn this by pressing the block button in conjunction with the final button to get a launch. You can also do teleport in the air, as you can see. Spear. This is one of Scorpion's most iconic moves. A projectile that when it hits, pulls them in. And see how long they're stunned? You hit them with this, you get a combo. Now you might be thinking, can I do a combo forever? The answer is, of course, no. If you land 2 spears, Scorpion actually hits them back. This is a good way to get a little bit of extra damage if you're playing it cheap. If you're, like, playing it cheap on the meter, so that's a pretty easy 30%, and you kind of put them at this range. If you meter burn Spear, you just get some extra damage. No extra stun, no armor, nothing. But there's a little extra secret spice here, and it's unique. And this is one of those instances where it even pays to check out the basic characters because they have secret stuff. It's not that secret if you check the move list at least, but it's something that some players might miss on the first look. If you meter burn Spear again, as in spend 2 bars, you burn them and leave them, more importantly, standing. So if I were to do this, excuse me. There we go. I could use it to extend the combo a little bit longer to get a little bit extra damage. If you want to close out a round, great. There's a brutality attached to this as well, and if you know that, then feel free to go for it. Otherwise, not the most useful use of the Spear. And I've talked about this a little bit already, but Takedown. Fast low that has pretty good range. It looks like it should have hit there, but it actually doesn't. It hits from about here, I think. Yeah, that's kind of the maximum range that it hits. If you're, like, touching your opponent, 1 backdash is kind of the range here. If you meter burn it, this gains armor and knocks down. So this is what's known as an armored wake up or armored reversal. You punch through the attack, you might take some damage from the armor, but you still land this, and it's a free 15% and a knockdown. Something to consider. Now let's talk about variations. So for that, we're actually going to go back to the player list. Variations can be are selected right from the beginning of the game. So if you're playing Scorpion, you'll notice that there are 3 variations here. The Ninjutsu, the Hellfire, and the Inferno variation. Each of these adds something different to help bolster Scorpion's toolkit in different ways. This is true of all characters in Mortal Kombat X, and all characters have 3 variations plus a special secret one, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But for now, let's just focus on beating the snot out of Sub-Zero. And yes, I am showing the secret a little bit early. I'll tell you how to do that later. But suffice it to say, we're going to start with ninjutsu, because this is going to be the one you might be gravitating towards, because look, Scorpion's got swords, and aren't swords cool? So, the thing about this variation is it is a variation that I like to call the doesn't change much style of variation. What it really does is it alters normals or alters some specials to be different, but it doesn't really do all that much for the character. Like, Scorpion gets no new specials or anything like that in here. He just gets alternate versions of normals he already has. Normals being attacks that are not special moves, so like uppercuts and whatnot. So, and he does get some new strings, but it is worth keeping in mind that, again, this isn't a huge step up, but in terms of how it looks, but the utility that these strings can bring is actually nuts. For a start, Doom Slice. That big mid from before is faster, has more range, and is easier to chain into. Look at this. From back here, I can practically hit him. And if I wanted to, I can hit this multiple times mid-screen and get a combo still. In theory, which is really cool. But usually you'd get 2 or 3, because you can still get a sphere afterwards. Next up is Doom Blade. Mid-overhead, which, by the way, is special cancelable on the first hit. So you could go for the trip if you want to mix up the opponent. And as you can see, the overhead launches. And if you're wondering, yes, this does work. This is one of the first things many Ninjutsu Scorpion players learn. It totally works. But keep this in mind. If you're looking to just do Doom Blade all day, don't. It's extremely unsafe and can get you in trouble. Plus, if you try to do it more than twice, it doesn't really work. Like, it does that, but you don't get anything else out of it. So better to alternate to get some different ideas for combos there. Affliction is this variation's version of, I believe it's Gravedigger. Same string, just a little extra cheddar because of the sword. But otherwise, it's not really that much to write home about. I mean, it's safe, which is kind of crazy, but there you go. Dead End is a new string that comes off of the 2-hit string Eternal Flame. So you get Eternal Vengeance and Dead End. Dead End does way more damage, but knocks down. So you can do something like this. And get pretty good damage and a knockdown in the corner, which can be scary. Because remember, you have this overhead, this low, and a random mid that you can squeak out to get some insane damage from back here. Soulless is also a slightly higher damage version of an already existing string. Nothing much to write home about. Cataclysm is another new string off of the overhead. You don't get a combo off of it, but this can be, again, a great combo ender if you want a little extra damage just to make it happen. So overall, ninjutsu is more about using the range of the swords to help dominate the mid-range, which Scorpion doesn't really have options for that outside of specials, and they are usually unsafe. So relatively safe mids and overheads that can combo from that range, they can be scary. And the extra additions, usually in things like an extra damaging overhead, which remember, if the opponent's expecting that, you could go for this mid to try and catch them off guard, which is +2. So it's more his turn if he lands this one. But it's a little bit slower than the overhead. And if the opponent is still stand blocking, you can do something cheeky like that. Oh, before I forget, there is one more thing about ninjutsu, and that is a special cancelable sweep, which is, as far as I know, unique to this variation, as this is a 2-hit sweep. You can sweep from back here, but if you use the leg, it does a little extra damage. But what you can also do is this. And get a combo off of a sweep, which is not something that any other character can really do. So it's a pretty nifty trick. Let's move on to the next variation, Hellfire. This is much more special move based, and this really opens up Scorpion's abilities, especially if you have fast buttons. But on the surface, it doesn't look like much. I mean, there's fewer things here than the sword variation. And look, I don't even have my swords. So what gives? Well, first off, we have Fireball. It's slow, but it's still a straight-up projectile. This is something Scorpion doesn't tend to have in these games. Usually it's just the spear, which is nice and all, but the spear is unsafe, and maybe you just want to keep the opponent back. Then you can throw the Fireball. Meter burn it for bigger damage. One thing that a lot of players could do is dash cancel the Fireball. And if you can dash cancel it, then you can do... It's a little bit tricky for me. I apologize, but the idea is that you would be able to dash cancel out of the Fireball into a run cancel. By the way, you run by dashing forward and tapping the block button. And you use this to continue combos, do special cancels, that kind of thing. You'd be able to do anything out of a run, but you can't really do anything out of a dash. So you have to do a run cancel, which is tricky for me off of a move like this. But if you get really, really good with Scorpion, you can do combos into a Fireball dash cancel to enforce pressure, and then go for another scary mix-up. Or you could go for Hellfire instead. Slower, but it tracks the opponent, and note that it's unblockable. So that's a free 6%. Unless they're on the ground. But that's where the meter burn version comes in. First off, the flames are larger and deal more damage. But you'll notice that I knocked him down and I caught him with the fire. This is what's known as an OTG, or off-the-ground attack, in that only it hits opponents that are technically invincible because they're on the ground. There aren't very many moves like this in fighting games, and especially in Mortal Kombat, but when they're in, they're generally pretty strong. So if you have you have 2 ranged checks and a combo cancel tool. Up close, though, you've got the Flame Aura, which does activate and damages the opponent, but on its own, as you can see, it also deals damage over time. Pretty handy. On Meter Burn, the Flame Carpet is larger and deals more damage. But remember how I said earlier this hits? It hits as a mid. And if you're fast enough, you can use this to start or extend combos. So for instance, let's say I were to do this. Forward 4 into the Flame Aura. If I'm fast enough, or time it out properly, and anybody who's not holding block can fall for this one, which is generally a mistiming, but if it's a happy accident, it's a happy accident. See how the combo reset? Now got a little bit of extra damage out of it because the combo partially reset partway through. On Meter Burn, this window is a little bit larger, but not by much. I can't get it back 2 off, but I can get a standing 4 off. And of course, the flames do more damage. Pretty handy, and honestly my favorite variation of Scorpion. Last, and arguably least, depending on who you are, we have the Hellfire variation, where Scorpion summons a minion to do his dirty work. Weird, but not unusual. Where some of the variations can get quite strange. For instance, Infernal Scorpion has a new projectile style, Minion Charge. It's slow, but the projectile hits from the back, which can catch opponents off guard, especially if you meter burn, as it does tons of damage. Minion Drop is similar, but it's actually an overhead projectile. On meter burn, it does extra damage and knocks down. Then you have Minion Grab, which deals a little bit extra damage. And let me double check. Okay, so it's actually worse overall. All right. So you'll generally want to go for normal Minion Grab, which is another stun. This is scary for a character like Scorpion, who has tons of stuns already, allowing this variation to be particularly annoying to those people who do not like being caught in long combos. Exhibit A. I even messed it up, and I could have gone for longer. And here's the thing. If I was really willing to piss someone off, if I really wanted to spend the bar, watch this. Okay, wait, that doesn't work. But you can use that to fake someone out. Damn it. Sorry, this is a little bit of rust I gotta knock off. It's been a hot minute, but I'll get it. Sorry. Oh, really? That doesn't work either? I thought that did. Oh, damn it. You can see where this is going, though, right? By spending extra meter, I can get extra launches. Damn it. There we go. That's a hit for every letter of the English alphabet, and probably about 20 seconds of your opponent's time that you just wasted. So if you're really close, if you got a life lead and you could, with this one combo, win the round by timeout, go for it. But what this string really specializes in is keeping your opponent in check, because you got to watch for an overhead, a projectile that comes from the back, a spear from the front. I also forgot to mention one cool utility about teleports, which is universal. By spending stamina, you can fake out in two directions. Except I was never very good at the second one, for some reason. Okay. Come on. Excuse me? Yeah, this is the one that I could get consistently, but you can also get it to where you go full screen. I'm having a hard time getting it there. No? Let's try this. Nope. There we go. So it's a little bit tricky for me, but that gets the idea. So now all of a sudden, Minion Drop, Minion Charge, Minion Grab, continue combos. You get the idea. So that's Scorpion in a nutshell. He's got a lot of basic stuff that won't take you very long to figure out, but the real spice comes in the variations, which is going to help set the theme for a lot of this stuff. When you have variations, you can either add a little or you can add a lot. And some characters, they just add a little and they can get by really well. Other characters add a ton, and it really changes how they play. One of those examples is actually coming up next with Sub-Zero. Don't forget to be awesome, my friends. We'll see you guys on the other side.